With me today, I have Bruce Tucker. He's our commander or deputy chief over support services with the Sheriff's Office. We have Detective Jordan Smith, Navajo County Sheriff's Office, Detective Shana Trusty, Navajo County Sheriff's Office. We have Lieutenant Danny Dietz with the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. Our criminal investigations, major crimes commander, Lieutenant Caitlin Butler, and then we have Regina Sena with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. She is the acting supervisor for the area, and we'd also like to recognize Tyler Woods. He's the supervising resident agent for the Pinetop Lakeside office here in Arizona. The FBI was brought in as a partner. We work closely with them on Indian crimes in and on our reservations in and around Navajo County. And when we took on this case, we asked for their support, and they jumped in, and they've been a great partner. We'd like to recognize them. With that, as I go through the timeline of events, there's dozens of several agencies I would like to also mention for their support and partnership with us. We had the Arizona Department of Public Safety, Globe PD, Gila County Sheriff's Office. We had Pinetop Lakeside Police Department, Snowflake Taylor Police Department, Shoalo Police Department. In California, we had the Imperial County Sheriff's Office, we had the Imperial County Attorney's Office, and then we had numerous agencies out of the valley that helped with forensics labs and search warrant capability, or search warrant forensic capabilities that came and assisted. A lot of those upper agencies that I mentioned helped with interviews and helped with area canvasses. All our local agencies were phenomenal. So I have some documents here that I'll be referring to. If there's any, these are just information that I've extracted from the official reports and court documents. I've created them for my use. If there's any mistakes or if I make any errors in timelines or anything, those are of mine and not of the investigation. And these documents will be destroyed once I'm complete. They're just for note-taking for me and reference. And so if there's anything that you find that may be a discrepancy later on, it's because of my error in transferring it over. Secondly, at the end, we'll open it up to some questions. I'm going to give a brief statement. I've asked our Deputy Chief Tucker and our Commander Caitlin Butler, who are more familiar with the investigation on the day-to-day matters. They will help with any questions as they may come in. And then last, before we get into a little brief statement, we had a terrible homicide that occurred in our county. There's a family that's been affected by this. Let's remember that. When we speak of the victim, we'll speak in reverence, we'll speak of respect for them, and we will not make a parade of this incident. Secondly, we have a defendant or a suspect in this matter. He is afforded the right of innocence until proven guilty, and we will recognize that right, and he will be granted that under the United States Constitution. So, in a matter of timeline here, on November 20th of 2025, around 9:19 p.m., a 911 call was received from the residents of 4153 Bruin Way in Pinetop, Arizona. The 911 call was placed by a family member by the name of William Robbins, who is a relative of Miss Kerri Ann Abatti. The call was initially received as a medical emergency. Fire department emergency staff responded and found that Miss Abatti had sustained significant injuries. The medical staff quickly realized that Miss Abatti had sustained a gunshot wound and had called for law enforcement to respond. It was no longer what they thought initially was a medical call. I'd like to recognize Pinetop Fire for their quick assertive action and working in that and bringing in law enforcement and recognizing that this was something more than what was initially reported. The victim in this case at that time was identified later on by law enforcement as Kerri Abatti. Kerri Abatti was born on December 13th, 1965, and she was 59 at the time. Kerri Abatti is a resident at the time of Pinetop. She was born and raised in Pinetop, Arizona. She later had married a gentleman by the name of Michael Abatti, who was born on April 18th of 1962. He's 63 years old, 63 years of age. Mr. Abatti is a lifelong resident of El Centro, California. He's a generational farmer of El Centro, the Imperial Valley. Miss Abatti and Kerri and Michael had married in the 90s and had been married around 30 years and had made a life for themselves in El Centro, California. They have 3 adult children that have all, they have raised and all have left the house and living adult lives elsewhere. Once Kerri was identified as our victim in this case, she was transported to the local hospital in Show Low and was later pronounced deceased a short time later upon arrival. Law enforcement members from the Navajo County Sheriff's Office and Pinetop Police Department responded to the emergency call. This resulted in the scene being secured and a search warrant being authored at the beginning and also a canvass of the area. This scene or this residence was secured for about 4 days as we conducted a significant search of the residence. During that time, detectives led by Lieutenant Butler began a very thorough investigation. People often compare it to peeling an onion or starting in the center and just peeling back layers, looking at identifying who our victim is, identifying her family, identifying people within her circle. For the next 4 days, a neighborhood canvass was conducted. We were looking for all eyewitnesses, anybody that was home at the time. Of course, we have a lot of technology that is now available that property owners put on their front doors or their properties, and so deputies under the direction of our lieutenants and everybody sent everybody within a canvass for several days, trying to obtain as much information as we can internally. Detectives then began an investigation into who Kerri was and then her family by interviewing children and extended family, close friends, and analyzing her activities for the last 24, 48, or even 72 hours and looking for anything that was out of the norm. During that time, we obviously learned that she had moved to Pinetop about 2 to 3 years prior. She was in a separation from her then husband, Michael Abatti, and she had moved back to Pinetop where she was from, and her children were all, like I said, living their own lives at that time. Around November 23rd, detectives moved to El Centro, California with the assistance of the Imperial County Attorney's Office and Imperial County Sheriff's Office. We wanted to go to El Centro to start working and making interviews with family members. Kerri had lived there for a long time, and start understanding their life there and who was involved in that point. Family was interviewed, children were interviewed, friends and co-workers and all associates that were in and around Kerri and Michael's lives. A lot of information was obtained, and we started to develop some investigative leads. Around November 30th through December 5th, 2025, a second investigative trip was then went back to California, where we conducted search warrants at 3 different locations, and those were locations that the Abatti's residence and Michael Abatti's places of business. Between November 20th and December 23rd, 2025, investigators conducted area canvasses, sought video surveillance from multiple locations, and authored court orders presently under seal and cannot be discussed, and gathered information along with conducting additional family interviews and associates. Once all this information was obtained, basically you get a search warrant. We're canvassing for technology, forensic information. Of course, you have your in-person interviews, and investigators bring them back. They overlap those things, and they look for consistencies. They look for things that are out of the norm. During that time, a suspect was identified in Mr. Michael Abatti. With that and all that information, we had strong reason to believe that Mr. Abatti had traveled from El Centro, California on November 20th to Pinetop, Arizona, committed the homicide, and traveled back to California early that morning of the 21st. After all this information was obtained, we sought with the Navajo County Attorney's Office, presented the information. Probable cause was deemed to be found, and the information and the evidence was presented to a grand jury on December 23rd, 2025 in Navajo County. A grand jury brought down a first degree murder indictment against Mr. Abatti, and subsequent an arrest warrant was issued for his arrest. On that date, detectives from the Navajo County Sheriff's Office were in Imperial Valley or El Centro, California, alongside Imperial County Sheriff's Office. Once that once that arrest warrant was obtained, Imperial County Sheriff's Office located and arrested Mr. Abatti, who was booked into the Imperial County Jail on December 23rd, 2025, under a warrant from the state of Arizona or Navajo County for first-degree murder. Mr. Abatti is still currently in Imperial County Sheriff's Office jail. He is awaiting extradition. We have received orders for a pickup. He has been placed in our transport queue or our schedule, and that date and time will be released once he's back in Navajo County. For security and obvious reasons, we will notify everybody, the media to included, once he is secured back in Navajo County Jail. That's kind of a quick little recap of where we're at. I'll open it up if there's any questions online. I know Tori's going to monitor those, but if there's any questions from those present here today, we'll take a few questions, and then we will thank you for your time. So.
Sheriff, any word of motive at this point? I think that's the question everybody's kind of wondering who have interest in this case is why would somebody take these lengths to kill their estranged wife? Any word on that to this point that you can say?
Well, I think that's something that always pops out in front of everybody. In our investigation, it's something that different theories will come up, but the only thing that's glaring that I think everybody already knows, there was a divorce in place, and they weren't able to come to a resolution. But I can't speak to exactly what the motive would be.
When he was arrested on the 23rd, did he resist at all? Did he say anything of that nature?
I'll ask. I wasn't there.
Would you like me to handle this, Sheriff? Okay, my name is Bruce Tucker. I'm a deputy chief for the Sheriff's Office. First name is Bruce, B-R-U-C-E. Last name is Tucker, T-U-C-K-E-R. I serve as the Support Services Commander. I have oversight of various aspects of the agency along with our Criminal Investigations Division. In reference to your question, thank you for your question, and thank you all for being here today. Again, please keep in mind this is an active investigation. There's very limited details I can offer. Mr. Abatti was taken into custody without any incident. I can say that much. He was subsequently transported to the jail and booked into jail without any incident.
Any request to interview him? Did he, invoke his Fifth Amendment right? Anything of that nature?
I'm not going to address any statements made by Mr. Abatti at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you explain, I guess, how the incident took place on the 20th? Did Mr. Abatti enter the home, and did they have a conversation that led to the...
Well, again, this is an active investigation, and I don't want to get into areas that are still actively being investigated. We do have information that he traveled from California to Arizona. The specifics about what occurred at the house, I'm going to refrain from disclosing at this point.
And the phone call, the 911 phone call, would that come from their house or from a neighbor's home?
The 911 call came from inside the home, from Kerri Abatti's nephew.
When I was out there several days after the homicide took place, neighbors were saying they didn't hear gunfire that night. They didn't hear gunshots. Is there any reason that you can disclose as to why that would be?
I can't explain why a neighbor would state that. I believe we do have reports of persons hearing gunfire.
And no expected timeline of when Michael Abatti should be extradited?
I can't disclose that due to security reasons. I would anticipate that being in the near future, but I can't get into specifics on his transport.
Could you give us an idea of what sort of evidence you all have collected that was maybe presented to the grand jury?
Sure, I will tell you that with the cooperation of multiple agencies, from California through Arizona, we're able to use traditional investigative techniques, your old-fashioned knocking on doors, through the assistance of additional technology. And I won't get into the specifics of what that technology was, but it did give us reason to believe that Mr. Abatti is the person responsible for this incident.
Is that including a firearm? Has a firearm been recovered?
Again, I'm not going to disclose any information relating to a firearm at this point.
Kerri Ann obviously has a lot of familial ties to Pinetop.
Yes, sir.
What impacts, if any, is that having on prosecution and whether whether Michael will be prosecuted in the area?
That's a question for the county attorney's office. Obviously, she's a longtime member of our community, or at least was, grew up here, graduated from Blue Ridge High School, but then moved shortly after her marriage to California, is my understanding, and then spent a lot of her marital life in California. So I don't know how that'll impact anything going forward. That would be a question for the county attorney's office.
Sheriff, I saw when you were mentioning her at the beginning, you were, getting a little bit emotional talking about her losing her life in this way, especially a domestic violence homicide. What does that bring up as a law enforcement member?
I've been doing this a long time. I've worked a lot of homicides, and unfortunately, a lot of people put themselves in a position that they live a high-risk lifestyle. And I don't believe Miss Abatti was one of those people. And it's difficult anytime we lose someone in our community, especially close to the holidays. It's hard on everyone. It's hard on the team. It's hard on our community. I'm sure it's hard on the Abatti families. I can't imagine being in their position.
And I imagine it's gratifying to get to this point where you believe you have the person that's responsible for this. Is that not?
I would say it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's always good if you can bring closure to a family. Of course, this is just really the beginning. We have a whole phase of prosecution to move forward through, and that's not within my purview. Any other questions?
We'll see if there's any online or if anyone submitted anything yet.
The first question that was asked was what weapons were found, or if there were any weapons found.
I think we kind of addressed that with the other gentleman. Again, thank you for your patience on this. We've never done anything like this, but seeing we're over a couple different states, just try to lump it into one event.
The next question was, what evidence led investigators to believe that this murder was premeditated?
I can only speak to the charges in and of themselves are first-degree murder, which would incorporate consideration of premeditation. I would also ask, again, for the media, please respect the family. It's a difficult time for them going through this. In addition, if there's anyone out there who has any additional information that they haven't disclosed to law enforcement already, I would invite you to please consider calling our sheriff's office. Phone number 928-524-4050. Leave your name and a phone number or an email and ask to speak with one of our criminal investigators. We want to make sure that we have done a full and robust investigation. All information has been gathered.
You mentioned you guys have never done anything like this before. Can you speak to, the help that the other agencies provided for you guys?
We have done homicide investigations.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to clarify that.
Okay.
We've done homicide investigations, but what I meant was the media, with the,
I understand.
that's an important question probably to clean up there. This is not our first investigation. This is not our first time trying to piece together a puzzle so complicated. But as you know, in rural Arizona, you need partners. You need people to help with a lot of, especially going over several counties over to a different state. This is where law enforcement needs to work together to kind of piece these puzzles together. But this is our first, not a lot of activity usually comes looking for Holbrook with newspapers and media outlets from all over the western United States. So that was what I meant.
One more I had was, you had mentioned that the first 48 hours, we'll call it, of this investigation was interviews with best friends in the Pinetop area, close familial family members. Could you disclose at all what they maybe discussed about what Kerri's life was like in those 48 to 72 hours that you discussed, that you were trying to learn about?
Yeah, I mean, I can't get into the specifics, but I think one of the big things was she was living alone, and she had left her husband and was living in Pinetop, and was working through a divorce that had been dragging on for a couple of years, was the glaring things that were poking out. Anything else?
I saw that maybe in court docs he had waived extradition already. Is that confirmed?
That's correct. And I think we kind of mentioned it. It'll be in the near future, but we're actively working towards making that extradition. Like mentioned before, it's just security reasons for not only my employees, but Imperial County and Mr. Abatti himself. So
Can't just fly a jet out there.
So, anything else? If not, again, we just want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your understanding. We know that with the holiday and the weekend and different things, it's got pushed back a few days, but with that, hopefully we can get back to. We got one more online, it looks like.
Question came in as far as the suspect threatening to kill himself when law enforcement went to his home in El Centro.
Yeah, so there's kind of reports going on about that. There was a call for service taken in El Centro, but we'll let you guys. We can't speak to what occurred there. We did not take that call for service, nor do we have any records of that. But we just refer you to that.
Service intake, when did that occur?
I don't have the exact date on that.
Has your guys' investigation revealed at all, or any evidence to the point that Mr. Abatti himself was in any sort of financial strain or financial troubles himself? Is that something that's been uncovered?
I think that, I mean, obviously, when you have an investigation like this, you'll look at all aspects. You're going to look at what happened the day of and then leading up to, and you're going to do a comprehensive review of suspects, victims, and all that. But that's something that's currently being analyzed and put together by detectives. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Safe travels. And winter finally did come. It's a little cool today.